Hi, welcome to the second episode of Just Game Masters. I'm Darred, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host Branden.
Hello.
And today we're going to talk about a couple things. First and foremost, is going to be about the Palladium Open House. And for those who don't know what that is, Branden will be very happy to explain.
It's an open house by Palladium. No, it's Palladium Books has an open house every so many years, usually every 3 years or so, where they invite gamers to come to the warehouse and play games or run events for a weekend.
In beautiful Westland, Michigan.
In beautiful suburban Detroit. Actually, it's not that Westland itself isn't that bad, but it's a good time. It's just like a small convention. It's Friday through Sunday, unless you go to VIP Thursday, which we did, and you get to. It's fun because you get to meet other gamers who play the Palladium system, but also you get to meet the writers, the editors, the artists. You get to interact with them and ask them questions, and even game with them. We actually played a game with Kevin Sambita, who runs Palladium Books. I had a great time. I know, Darred, you're not as into the Palladium system.
Not really.
But you still made the best of it. You were in several events, including 2 of my own. We'll talk about those in a moment.
Yeah, I mean, to me, if I get to roleplay, it's a good day. It depends on the game master, though.
I guess what I found the most amusing... Well, actually, I'll get to that in a moment, but when you played one of the characters in my event...
Which one was...
The psionicist. Hold that thought. We'll get back to that. But I did run 3 events at the open house, and I learned an important lesson after running these events. And I guess when I learned that when I run my campaign, it's different than running a convention event. But what I really learned was it doesn't matter how it's executed. I ran 3 events at the open house, and I learned a couple of lessons in doing so. First and foremost, I learned that the way you run an event at a convention is different, or a one-shot is different than the way you run a campaign session. One of those things, I always knew that on paper or in theory, but in practice it never really sunk in. And what tends to happen to me when I run events at a convention is it doesn't execute the way I want it to, so I ended up leaving the event a little bummed out and disappointed. The fact that the players had a great time didn't really faze me until this past open house, where it sunk in that, you know what, it doesn't matter how executed as long as everyone had fun.
Why did you, if it took you so long to realize that, why do you think you didn't get that at the first place?
Good question. I think it's just because I assumed, if you ask me, do you think that it's important that everyone has a good time versus the execution, I'd say, well, of course it's important everyone has a good time. But it's one of those things where knowing the theory and actually feeling that way is different. It just, I guess, experience, wisdom. I'm getting old. I just realized it. Slowly catch on. I don't know. It just sunk in. And my first event that I ran was called 310 the Lone Star. It involves a hover train going from the city of Cheetown to Lone Star, which is Texas. On a hover train, it goes Mach 1. And things happen on the train. The players have to work it out. And the story was great. I loved the premise. The way it executed did not go as I had hoped. And in fact, in hindsight, I realized I didn't even give them the backstory. So I don't think they had any idea what I was.
Wait, you didn't tell? You didn't give them the backstory? I didn't know this.
Well, the way they did things, I had to improvise it, and it didn't fit into the story that I had. So but they seemed to have a good time. I ended up getting into a long conversation with one of the players afterwards, and so no harm done. It was fun. The second event that I ran, however, was a Heroes Unlimited game. It's a sequel to my previous open house event called Band of Bothers, where you play a group of superheroes who have superpowers that are of questionable use. Not unlike Mystery Men, if you've ever seen that movie with Ben Stiller. So I have these superheroes that have kind of silly powers, and I ran the event at Gen Con a few years ago, in the open house a few years ago, and people had a great time. I actually got the event, I wrote it up into a one-shot and got it published in Palladium's periodical called The Rifter. If you get Rifter number 68, you can see the Band of Bothers one-shot. It's a lighthearted adventure, it was a lot of fun. Well, at the Palladium Open House this year, I ran Band of Bothers 2, Jailbreak, where some supervillains with also questionably useless powers break out of a supermax prison, and the Band of Bothers have to go and rein them in.
Yeah, and that's the one I played. I picked up one of the characters nobody wanted.
Well, yeah, so you had...
I was Peripher, the sponge person.
Right, alter physical structure sponge. So your superpower was you turn into a sponge.
Yeah, I kind of threw a wrench in a couple of your plans.
Well, in the first Band of Bothers adventure, that was a very useful character. There was water in places that was key, and it was accidental on my part. In this one, not so much. He didn't have much use. But
I found use because I just could walk up to, like, Mr. You had somebody that was similar to the Juggernaut, pretty much.
Yes.
Where he could, he was very invulnerable. Unlike the Juggernaut himself, Juggernaut has some intelligence. This guy was pretty stupid. It was like, what, Commander Cookie or something?
Captain Cookie.
Cookie.
Colonel Cookie. He actually, his stat-wise, his IQ was actually average. It wasn't bad. I played him out to be kind of an idiot. But yeah, the person ended up, he had a super ability which made him invulnerable, but as a side effect, he had increased mass. He weighed 2,000 or 3,000 pounds. But then we had the martial artist, who was 97 years old, but he had the ability to somehow increase his strength to a certain number and blah, 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 and then doing a Hulk smash on this guy, which took care of him pretty quick.
I took several punches and I was okay.
Yes, you were invulnerable to punches and kicks and
explosions.
Kinetic
I
attacks.
take, minimal damage from, like, bullets.
That was... But, again, I hadn't really fully play-tested that event, so I kind of did a lot of...
Yeah, and there was, like, Zub was pretty useless, your alien.
He was useful in the previous one, too. Again, another example where in the previous setting he was great. This time he couldn't do much.
Yeah, Zub had the power over rain.
Zub. He had control precipitation or something like that, yeah. So... I didn't think, it didn't go even close to the way I was expecting it to go. But then one of the players came up to me afterwards and asked if he could have my notes because he thought it was a great con event and he wanted to run it himself, which is very flattering. So I didn't realize, it didn't go the way I wanted, but he had fun. So then it was my third event came up, it's called Water Everywhere, where everyone plays a Lemurian, which is an aquatic humanoid species in Rips, and you had the oh shit character. The oh shit character is when your events have 4 to 6 players, but a 7th person shows up and they want to play. So I have the extra, oh shit, what do I do character, which you got, and it was a hydrocyanocyst.
Yeah, and tell them why a hydrocyanocyst usually wouldn't be a very good idea for your game.
Yeah, so the premise of the Water Everywhere adventure was you have to go under to the bottom of the Indian Ocean and defeat Davy Jones. And by Davy Jones, I don't mean the member of the Monkees. I mean he's actually a pirate vampire. He's an aquatic vampire, and so he produces other aquatic vampires. And aquatic vampires are identical to non-aquatic vampires, except for one small detail. They don't have the we are damaged by water thing, because they're aquatic.
Question, are you damaged by holy water?
I don't think so. That's a good question. But it doesn't matter because your character had the ability to manipulate water.
Yeah.
Which wasn't very effective against the vampires, but you found a way to do it. So even though the water itself didn't do damage to the vampire, you produced waves which knocked them over and created a significant obstacle for them. And you used the Psionicist in a way that was really creative, and I was pretty impressed.
Well, that was the only spell I could really use, besides making it rain, literally making it rain.
And bomb the ocean is very useful.
Well, I was in a place where there wasn't water, so I had to make it rain, and then I had to use my ability to have people lose initiative. I mean...
My favorite part of that session, though, this really happened, true story. The Lemuria source book was written by a talented writer named Greg Dziak. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. Well, he happened to be at the Palladium Open House signing books, signing whatever. And we needed clarification on one element of the Lemuria setting. So someone said to me, why don't you just ask the writer, he's right behind you. So I walked over to him and asked him and got the answer that I needed. That was awesome. Asked the writer of the book for clarification, he's right next to you.
That's actually what happened in the game, and I'll talk about the game I played with Mike Leonard. Mike Leonard needed some clarification on what damage would be using a certain technique, and a game master that we actually played with in the After the Bomb game had walked by, and he asked, what would this do? But I'll explain that later.
Yeah, so... But again, the Water Everywhere event didn't go the way I wanted it to. I felt they made it too easy. Players had a good time, and one player in particular, she really liked my props, my character sheets, said it was very nice and fun. So that was good. So I learned some important lessons, and I'm looking forward to running these very same events again at Gen Con, although I will be tweaking them significantly for the summer. So yeah, that was the Palladium Open House. It was a lot of fun. 2 Rifts games, 1 Heroes Limited game.
Oh, and we played with Kevin Simbita.
Kevin Simbita, the owner of Palladium Books, or editor-in-chief, whatever his title is.
Yeah, we played a Palladium fantasy game.
Yeah.
Which had 20 people in it?
Yeah, he had a lot of players in it, but he handled it fine. I mean, everyone wanted to get a chance to play with Kevin, so he gave everyone the opportunity. And he liked you. He even made a comment about you at the end of the open house. He said, "I like gaming with you." He didn't say that to me.
But you were pretty quiet during that game.
Well, yeah, I couldn't hear. It was too loud in the warehouse. I couldn't hear what was going on. I was just too distracted, so I didn't get a chance to really participate in the capacity that I wanted to. You're playing a fun character, too. You had the...
Well, I played him last open house, too.
Yeah, I've been telling you that.
And I felt like... I like playing the... Normally, I like playing the guy who's stupid and can hit things really hard. My other go-to character is either questionable morals or, straight lawful good paladin, which I think I've nailed down pretty well at this point. But speaking of the Palladium Open House, so I didn't run any games because, like Brandon said, Palladium's not really my thing. I don't like the system, but a lot of people I find at the Palladium Open House don't really care about the system too much.
It's the setting. People play Rifts in particular for the setting. It's got a very rich story, and anything you could possibly want is there.
That's the other thing so other than the system itself, that's the other thing I come across people. It's just too much stuff for a lot of people, for some people to handle.
It's not too much, it's as much as you want it to be. You don't have to use everything. I mean, take Forgotten Realms, for example. There's a lot of stuff in Forgotten Realms. And I ran an adventure in Waterdeep. I was on a campaign in Waterdeep. I have no idea what's going on in the Dalelands or other parts of the realms, and I don't need to know what's going on. I don't care. I just focus on the Waterdeep. So I think Rifts would be similar. You don't have to know what's going on in England to run a campaign that takes place in Texas. Right? You don't have to know about Australia or Rifts in Outer Space or Mars or Phase World or all the other 40 source books they have.
Yeah, but I still think it's 40 source books compared to how many Forgotten Realms has.
Well, over 30 years.
Well,
I mean, they keep expanding it.
So I played in Mike Leonard's game. Mike Leonard is one of the artists for Palladium. He's done a couple Rifter covers. Has he done any source book covers?
Not yet.
Okay. And he ran a fun game where I forgot the name of it. I don't think it was
Barbarians at the Gate.
No, it wasn't Barbarians at the Gate.
Was the Bug one?
No, it wasn't Bug Hunt. It was a plain fantasy game.
Oh.
But so what had happened was we were a group of level 1 adventurers, and we were looking for work. And we come across this guy in the middle of the woods. His name was Lord Bromstone, but me and Brandon have been I've been calling him Lord Asshat, because this is what he did to us. So he told us, "Hey, here's my signet ring. Please go to my fiefdom and give this ring so they can send me a horse."
I have a question.
Yes.
Now, I've heard you tell this story several times.
Yes.
Warning, it's a long story. I'm unclear. How do you define a fiefdom?
It's like a
Where's
small
the kingdom.
It's alright, so I think this is the way it is. Please correct me if I'm wrong, internet. I'm sure you will. A fiefdom, so you know what a vassal is?
A vessel?
A vassal. Alright, so in ye olden times, in medieval times, kingdoms were split into fiefdoms, which were headed by a vassal.
You're not helping the definition here.
A fiefdom is a large plot of land. Kind of think of like a county. So change fiefdom to county and change vassal to the mayor, and that's what you pretty much get. He was a noble who was in charge of this fiefdom. So he was the guy in charge of this large piece of land where people lived and stuff. I'm not sure if fiefdom is like a step right below kingdom. That I'm unclear about, but that's what a king grants one of his knights. He becomes a vassal for the king. So Lord Asshat gives us this signet ring, and he says, "Go to the fiefdom, get him a horse, and in return you will be long-termly employed long-termly." So we're like, okay, cool. I like a job. Everybody else wants a job. So we go to the fiefdom, and we find out from the scribe that Lord Asshat has actually given us the fiefdom.
Lord Asshat is the vassal?
Yes. So we're like, we don't want to run a freaking fiefdom. And the scribe mentions, well, there's a kingdom to the west who'd like the fiefdom. Actually, they had come to the fiefdom to offer to clear out the silver mine that was overrun by orcs and goblins, and in return, they would keep the silver mine. Shitty deal. So Lord Asshat killed the emissary, the ambassador that came, who happened to be the son of the ruler of the Western Kingdom. Hence why he probably ran away like Sir Robin. So we're like, fine, send him a horse, we're in charge, let's go check out the silver mine. We go to the silver mine. It's run by a group of orcs, which were our family unit. We kill the husbands and fathers. We tell the family to move out of there. While that's happening, we find Lord Asshat again, and he's covered in sores and his mind is broken from a disease. So we leave him from a farmer, and then we go back to get him, and then it turns out that the disease is contagious. So yeah, I don't remember whether we killed Lord Asshat or not. I think at some point we did kill him, but I don't remember.
For the audience, just know that right now I'm giving her a blank stare. Because I've heard the word fiefdom and asshat more in this conversation I've had my entire life.
Continuing on with my lovely story. So we decide, okay, we cleared out the silver mine. Let's go to the Western Kingdom and sell this fiefdom off. Because they don't know if this fiefdom does not... Let me put in the words of the scribe. This fiefdom has able-bodied men, in quotes. It doesn't have an army. So we're like, okay, fuck this. This is a shitty deal. So we go to the Western Kingdom. We find the Western Kingdom is run by undead, literally. And then we find an old man in the woods who, we're asking him questions, and he's like, I'm hungry. I'm gonna make some stew. So he goes to his little well. He pulls up a box, which is being refrigerated by the well, and he takes out a gnome's head, and he puts it in the stew pot, and he asks us if we want some stew. At that point, the people who we sent to go check out the house, or volunteered to check out the house, looked at each other and said, okay, we're getting the fuck out of Dodge right now.
I looked up fiefdom in the dictionary here.
Yeah.
Fiefdom. Noun, the estate or domain of a feudal lord, or, informal, anything as an organization or real estate owned or controlled by one dominant person or group.
Isn't that what I just said?
Used as like a county, which is fine.
I was making a mod.
Just give you the definition for the audience.
Okay.
And example: when one medieval fiefdom defeated another, they would drag back its jewels, gold, tapestries, and other objects as the spoils of war.
Okay. So we go on, and then we realize, holy shit, it's getting dark, and the woods around us are creepy McScary. So we're gonna go back to the river, and we're gonna, go chill. While this is happening, a carriage driven by nobody comes down, and we're like, okay, we gotta stop the carriage. Fighter goes to stop the carriage. There's 3,600 gold pieces in there waiting for us, with rolls and rolls of silk.
I have another clarification for you.
What?
Vassal. Noun. In the feudal system, a person granted the use of land in return for rendering homage, fealty, and usually military service, or its equivalent to a lord or other superior. Feudal tenant.
Isn't that what I said?
I just clarified.
All right. Are you even listening to my story?
Everything you're saying. If a carriage with no driver was by.
Has 3,600 gold, so we take the gold, we leave the cloth because we're afraid of smallpox blankets at this point. So we continue down. There's a rider with a skeleton manning it, and we're like, holy shit, we hate this place. I'm trying to tell everybody else, hey, we should get the fuck out of here. Everybody else like, no, we should go into the scary McDeadlands with the bone statue that's sitting right in front of it.
I have another clarification for you.
What?
Asshat. One who has had their head up their ass, thus wearing their ass as a hat. That's from the Urban Dictionary.
Lovely. Can I finish telling my story?
Yes.
Okay. So, long story short, the guy who owns the Western Kingdoms is the old man in the woods who wanted to give us some gnome stew. He gives us 3 dragon coins, where apparently are worth like several thousand gold pieces each, along with the carriage he sent with the gold. And in exchange, he'll take the fiefdom. And we're like, yeah, let's take the fiefdom. He's riding on he had a dragon and 6 hellhounds, which we tried to kill with a telekinetic move. So a guy had telekinesis. He took a tree that was lying down. He hoisted it up, and he let telekinesis go at the drop point, and then we had to ask the Game Master how much damage that would do to a hellhound. It turns out it's several hundred pounds times how much force, whatever. And yeah, that's it. That's my story.
Actually, it would be force equals mass times acceleration, so you get the mass of a pound.
Apparently not in Palladium.
That sounds like an improv rule to me, which is fine.
Well,
the Palladium was great.
Anyways, and I played the water psionicist, who everybody thought was useless. Even you thought it was useless.
Initially, you made a very effective use of the psionicist. I was like, oh, you're throwing me off again. That is good for you, bad for me.
I have a question. What made it such a good idea to have a water psionicist as the shit character?
Because the original, when I originally was making this one shot, they're gonna fight the Lord of the Deep, who is not a vampire. But
he's underwater.
Yeah, but not necessarily. He lives in the water, but I found out he was a little too big, and by too big I mean the Lord of the Deep is somewhere off the coast of Australia. His tentacles can reach to California, so I thought even for a level 10 character, it might be a little tough to defeat. So I decided not to do that, and I want to try to expose the players to all the different Lemurian classes. One of which was a psionicist. I didn't think it through too well, and that's why I ended up swapping him out with an Atlantean undead slayer, which had the opposite effect of being a little too powerful. That's a separate matter.
Okay. I mean, yeah, we had a good time. We're not going to drive there again.
We'll fly.
We're going to fly next time if there's another one. And Brandon and I are deciding to fly, which we have to talk about, to Gen Con, which Brandon will be running all his events again. Are you running anything else, or just those three?
Just those three.
And I will not be running any games this year. I have in the past, but I'm going to be participating in a bunch of games. Believe it or not, I've never played in a Call of Cthulhu game or a World of Darkness game. I tried to get into a Numenera game. They were all sold out because the queue line was 6,000 people long. I'll bitch about that in another episode. I tried to get into the Strange game. I don't think I got into one.
You did, actually.
Or I did.
I'll check the tickets.
And I think I'm in a 13th age game.
You were in a 13th age.
Okay.
But the other interesting event that's happened is you're starting a new campaign.
Yeah, shifting gears now. I'm starting a new campaign. So, a couple weeks ago, because of the season change, I get a lot of migraines, and they're pretty, debilitating.
Oh, they don't tickle?
No, they don't tickle.
Okay.
They're pretty, my head starts pounding, and I can't really do much. In the past, they've been so bad, I've been bedridden.
The reality is you failed your saving throw this year.
Yes.
And you got a lot of migraines.
Yeah, I got a lot of migraines. I also got sick. So week after week, I had to put off my game until eventually I think my players got fed up with me. And
you just missed 2 sessions. They were a little harsh on you.
Yeah, I feel bad, but I'm going to start another one now. I think my migraines are gone for the most part, but this game I'm looking forward to because in 2009, I started a game focused in a world I created called Pandora, a high fantasy world. Not quite Eberron, but not as low fantasy as Greyhawk. It's more fantasy than Forgotten Realms actually. So it's between Eberron and Forgotten Realms, magic wise. And I created this world, which the map looks similar to the World of Warcraft map, which I should change at some point. It does look very similar to the World of Warcraft map. Brandon's giving me a look.
I did not know that.
Well, you didn't play World of Warcraft for 4 years like I did.
No, I didn't. I didn't know that.
Exactly.
I thought you had an original map you created.
Nope.
We're going to have to change that a bit.
Yep. You know that group of islands in the middle? That's where the Maelstrom is in World of Warcraft.
Okay, we'll have a subject discussion offline about this.
Okay.
But, yeah, so, I remember when this was the first world you created. You're fairly new to D&D at that point.
I had been playing for a couple of months, and then I got sick of my DM, so I decided I should just do it myself.
And I remember we worked together on that world together. You did most of the work, but I had one country I did. But in general, just helping out with a lot of the details. It was a very well thought out world. It's still a lot of stuff to fill in, but I had a lot of fun working with you on that. And I think I'm happy that you're resurrecting that and gonna work on that again.
Yeah, the evil campaign I was running every Saturday was a DM, Brad Broyce. It was an awesome world, but it wasn't mine, and I think that was probably the problem. I started losing steam too. But yeah, I think this will be good. My original campaign had a villain named Osei, who initially wanted to wipe out all Fey creatures, mostly elves and other Fey creatures, because they are assholes. In my world, elves are assholes. They look at the non-Fey races as second-class citizens, maybe even slaves. And he was oppressed by them for many years until he he joined a rebel group of warlocks, and then that rebel group of warlocks was sold out by his best friend.
Would it be safe to say that Osei was opposed to Fey marriage?
Yes.
I remember when I ran a one-shot or a small campaign in your world, you got a little annoyed with me because I created a construct that destroyed all your elves.
Yeah, so...
You're going to retro that and kind of like undo that?
Yeah, that didn't happen. You can't...
Oh, it happened.
No, you can't kill all the elves.
But I did.
But you're not me.
It was a great idea, though. The execution was good. You gotta give me that.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for killing the main hatred of my villain at the time.
He was too full of himself at that point anyway. He was gonna do what he wanted, elves or no elves or whatever.
He was good. Well, he was also the chosen of Vecna at that point. There was a prophecy.
So I remember... You won't get this, but there's a parallel to Star Blazers in your world. I'll explain it really quickly. In Star Blazers, it's a Japanimation thing, and
we have the copy of Star Blazers.
Yes, and humanity has to get to planet Iskandar and within 1 year and back to get something to save the planet. Well, they do that. That was season 1, I guess. Season 2, they have a whole new villain they have to deal with. It's a spaceship in an asteroid instead of a comet or something. Anyway, you had your first campaign with Osei, and it was a great long-term campaign. Everyone had a lot of fun, and it was a great campaign.
Unfortunately,
then you had the second villain, who came the intelligent weapon that was the villain.
Yeah.
And that was like the season 2, but never quite finished, wrapped up. But yeah, it's a great world with a lot of potential, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you do with it next.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like when I first, after playing with it a few times, I realized that I felt like my world was like any other cookie cutter fantasy world. You have, some asshole nation that hates like their non-peoples and things like that. Well,
that's common in many stories, but you also had the relics, which were an element that I hadn't seen in other worlds, and it was quite the way you had them, and that was a unique aspect of your world, and you also incorporated the best parts of some worlds into your world. You had the dark sun area, you had the mountains, you had the forests, stuff like that. I mean, it left the framework. You're right. There's a lot of archetypes in that, but you also left enough open so you could do whatever you wanted with it.
Yeah, I just created a nature order because 2 of my players want to be druids. I hope these 2 people realize that they need different specializations. But we don't have a cleric, so it might work out.
No, it would be interesting, and I just thought of this now. Maybe take the world. Are you familiar with the world of Kryn, Dragonlance?
No.
All right. Well, you've heard of Dragonlance.
I know Dragonlance.
The premise of Dragonlance, it's a fantasy world like most others, except for one detail. There was a cataclysm that happened not too long ago.
So like the spell plague and like...
No, like a comet hit the planet or an asteroid hit the planet or something like that. And so cities that were once big are now underwater and stuff like that. And it's a big part of defining the world of Kryn.
I have a question. This is more of a science question. Aren't comets mostly made of ice?
Yeah, yes, but I mean, it's some they don't define what the cataclysm was in Dragonlance. It sounds like something crashed into the world.
Okay.
They don't say what it was. I mean, I misspoke. I said comet.
So it would be more like an asteroid then.
Probably, or something. But something happened to the world, and maybe one of the later books they explain what happened. But in the chronicles, they don't really get into it. But it's funny. You find an old map. But the map's no good because that was mapped written 100 years ago. That continent is now shaped differently now or something. And so maybe your world needs a spin, not quite the same thing, but a spin. You have the relics, but maybe something a little more extreme.
Well, I should explain what the relics are. We keep on throwing the word relics around, and everybody knows what relics are in religious, religious terms. But in my world, and if I'm ever going to publish the world, maybe I would have to rename the gods because they're all D&D gods. But it's easy to do that. I can easily make up gods. I've done it multiple times
take
before.
Take the first and last letter of the name and you swap it.
No.
Here becomes Reet.
So a relic in my world was sort of like an artifact in D&D. It was a item of immense power. And relics are that they're items that were created by the gods themselves. And they have a lot of power, and they all do different things depending on what god. The problem is, whatever you take, you have to give. So I had like Ayun's book, which You can write any question in there, any question you want, it would be answered. The problem is Ayun's book takes something. Usually it would be experience. One time it took somebody's memories. Or Melora's pendant gave you inhumane strength and Power of the Wilds and whatever, but you become a beast yourself. You become
I'm fat.
No.
Obese?
A beast.
A beast. I was thinking about beast. All right.
Well, no, you have an animalistic mind at that point.
Okay, beast. Okay,
and you will attack friend or foe. Actually, that happened to my best friend's character, which lost her eye in scrap between them.
I just got an idea for a relic.
What?
A mirror.
I think we already wrote down all the relics. So.
Well, I'm saying if you want another mirror, and you look at this mirror, and it does something, but as a result, you become very ugly. It takes away your beauty.
What if you're already ugly?
You're uglier. You're so ugly that just gazing upon you turns you to stone.
Can an illusion kind of fix that up?
But you're still an illusion.
I think that's a good price to pay if you want to wish your loved ones back from the dead.
Well, you said for any of your relics then.
Yeah, I guess.
I'm just saying. This is what I have to deal with, people. All this creative energy that gets dismissed.
Anyways, I think we can wrap up now.
Yeah, but I want to ask the audience a question. We have a contest. I'm going to ask a question, and the first person to tweet to you when you get the information in a moment, the correct response will get a prize. And the prize is Rifter number 68 by Palladium Books, the very same Rifter issue which I am published, the Band of Bothers one-shot. And the question is, everyone ready? The question is, what 2 campaign settings did I run at the Palladium Open House? Now, not the titles of the games. I mentioned 2 games by Palladium Books that I ran, 2 game systems that I ran at Palladium Open House. Name the 2 systems, the 2 games, and we will send you the prize if you're the first one to answer correctly.
So if you're the first person to tweet at me, it's at verycutegm, all one word. There are no hyphens, no dashes, no underscores, whatever. Very VERYCUTEGM, all one word. Twitter. That's the only. And if you post on my Facebook, if you email me, I will not consider those. Because I just want one channel where I can look at the timestamp and say, all right, you tweeted me back first. I think it's the easiest way, too. Because a lot of people have Twitter. And you can create a Twitter account in 5 minutes, if even.
Did I ask the question correctly?
Yeah. What 2 game settings did you run?
Game settings, not systems. Game settings.
Settings.
Yes.
Yeah. And that will prove that you actually listened to this podcast.
And once the winner responds, the first person to respond, we will go offline and get your contact information and send you the...
Yeah, so we will contact you through probably email once we get a hold of you. And then for free, you don't have to pay shipping or anything. We will send you Rifter 68. All right. And that concludes this podcast. As always, I'm Darred.
I'm Branden. I'm always Branden.
Yes, you are. And we'll see you next time. Have we decided what we want to do for our next podcast?
Yes, we have.
Subject-wise? We have?
Yes, we'll surprise them though.
Okay, sounds good. All right, bye guys.
Bye.